but most of them fought pretty hard. And just before we took Shuri Castle, there's a place called Wana, W-A-N-A, Wana Ridge is where I got hit. And, of course, I had a Thompson submachine gun that I could spray around. I was a B.A. Arman on Peleliu. That is a Browning automatic rifle. It's really a small miniature machine gun. It would shoot 20 or 30 times, and you put a new clip in and spray again. A Thompson submachine gun that I had on squad leader, acting squad leader on Okinawa, is something you just carry around with one hand and spray around. If you run into some Japanese, you just shoot the whole magazine, and then you throw another magazine. You had an assistant, B.A. Arman, all he had was extra magazines for you to use. But I got hit on my left wrist. I actually got hit 3 places. I never did get a Purple Heart for just one. I got hit up on the right sideburn, just a small indentation on my left.
Were you just walking on patrol and got hit?
No, we were fighting Japanese, and we were going up the cliff to Wana Ridge, which is right at Shuri Castle, and they were shooting us. We were dropping, there were Marines dropping here and there, and I dropped. When I got hit, my Thompson, my submachine gun fell to the ground, and of course, the platoon leader assigned a boy named Bill Darling, D-A-R-L-I-N-G. He was a good friend of mine. He said, take Braswell back, or take Dean. They called you by your last name. I was so tall. They called me String Bean. I was thin and tall on Peleliu. They said I was a watchtower. They said, we'll put you out front, and if the Japanese don't hit you, we're safe.
Oh, thanks.
Anyway, on Okinawa, I was kind of acting squad leader, and the whole squad of 8 or 10 men. Well, you had 3 different groups in a squad, and each group had a BAR person and a rifleman and a scout and an assistant and this sort of thing. So when I got hit, Darling was assigned to take me back and see if they could get me back before either one of us got shot. So on the way back, Mr. Darling wrote me a letter, and I put that in my book. If you read the chapter on Okinawa, chapter 11 of my book, Trial by Combat, Bill said, I thought we were going to get killed just trying to get you back. He said, we both had to fail. And he said, I saw for the first time a big piece of steel in your wrist. He said, I thought they were probably going to take your arm off. And so he took me back, and they were going to give me a shot. They took me back far enough where there's a little Jeep, where they had some stretchers, 2 or 3 stretchers on the Jeep. They put me on one, and they're going to give me a shot. I said, no, I don't like needles, so I was the only one who didn't get a shot for my wound.
A shot, but you don't.
Well, I didn't like a needle, so I was hit in the head, bleeding a little bit, and I was hit in the leg. Of course, the big wound here was this piece of steel that went through one side of my wrist and came out the other side. Fortunately, I can use my wrist. It does pop, but I can swing a pretty good 5-iron with it.
But you thought, well, I'm a goner now. Huh?
He did get me back safe to the Jeep, and they took me back to what they called an underground hospital. They dug a cave for the doctors to operate so that they would not get hit by snipers. So they operated me on me underground and flew me to Guam. First time I'd been on an airplane, I think. It was the first time I'd seen a nurse. I said, gee, first time I'd seen a woman in 2 years. And there were about 15 of us on the plane on a stretcher. And, of course, every once in a while the plane would just drop. I said, oh, we're gone now. But finally I got to Guam. And that's when they gave me a Purple Heart for wounds in action. And they said, we're going to take the gauze out of that wound, and better hang on to the table. That almost killed me there. But I was in 5 hospitals, and one on Okinawa, Guam. They flew me to Hawaii, then by boat to San Francisco, to San Diego, then back to Charleston, South Carolina. where my mom and daddy came and pick up their boy.
Yeah. Oh, so were you in the hospital when the war ended?
Okay, now they picked me up in Charleston about 2 or 3 weeks before the war was over. I was in Alma on a 30-day leave, and then they gave me 30 more days, so I had about 60 days. When the war was over, I think about August 17th, 18th, something like that, all the automobiles in Alma began to circle around tooting their horns. That was, of course, in New York City, they would have big parades in large cities and that sort of thing. But after the war was over, of course, I had to go back to Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. I had to get on a train in Waycross, and then they sent me to Paris Island, and I was discharged there. They said, "You want to stay in the reserve?" I said, "No, I think I'll just get out of there." So 2 weeks after I got out, I went to the University of Georgia.
Mm. So how hard was it to readjust to civilian life?
I think the University of Georgia helped save me. Because, there are a lot of young people there, and all the veterans were going back to college, and under the GI Bill, we were 2 or 3 years older than most students, and so we were back in a jovial, social, good mood rather than regimentation and close order drill and rifles and bayonets and all that sort of thing, which was kind of a kill or get ready to kill mentality. Back into, joined the Pi Kappa Alpha fraternity. I became president and had a good social life and went to law school. And so I did 5 years worth of work in 4 years by going every summer. And then I went back to Alma and started practicing law. And 2 weeks after I got back, I ran for the state representative and won that by 96 votes.
So you were off and running then.
I visited every home in the city, and then I got in my automobile and started climbing over fences and visited every farm in the county. And I defeated a very popular man and was very fortunate. And I stayed in the legislature 8 years, practiced law in Alma and the legislature, and I was president of the Lions Club, president of the Alma Trade Bureau, and I was elected as one of the 5 outstanding young men of Georgia. The JCs picked 5 young men every year. I was fortunate there. I was the author of Georgia's Woman Jury Bill, which opened up the door for women to participate in the judicial system. I told the men, I said, the women had cleaned up our courthouses. Now you only used to have a restroom for men. Now they got nice restrooms. The women have planted flowers around the courthouses all over the state. And so I think they've greatly enhanced. I think there's a lot that a woman can pick up in a jury trial that maybe a man might miss. And so I think they've elevated our jury system. And of course, later on, I went on the Court of Appeals and stayed there 26 years, but maybe I'm getting ahead of what you want to ask.
Well, I think that's absolutely fascinating. How would you say that the wartime experience affected your life?
Well, I think it was beneficial to the extent that it really causes you to prepare for things. I think it maybe helped me in law school, and you discipline yourself, and it makes you appreciate every day as a gift when you realize that a lot of your buddies didn't come back. And so I think that makes a big difference in going to college, practicing law on the courts. I think it helped me. They say I had written 14,000. I was involved in 14,000 criminal and civil cases while I was there 26 years. And I think it helped me expedite what I was doing. I would read cases, I would evaluate things, and I would write opinions. And I just think that's something you wouldn't want to do, is to go out and try to get killed. But having survived all that, it really made me appreciate the notion that, look, I'm here for a reason. I ought to try to accomplish something. So fortunately, I've written 4 books, Trial by Combat is one of 4. I've written 7 published songs, one of which is called Marie and Me Let It Be. I wrote that on the honeymoon of my second wife. We'd been married, both of us, about 50 years to other people. And all 4 of us would go down to Atlanta, down to the Capital City Club downtown, and dance every Saturday night, the 4 of us. And of course, my first wife, Jean, we lost our first 2 children. They told her not to have any children. But now we have 2 sons, a doctor and a lawyer in Marietta and a doctor in Michigan. And of course, Marie, my second wife, has 2 children. So, I feel that the military, I feel fortunate in being here. And I think it has spurred me on. I have a website now on the internet. When I got married the second time, I couldn't play the piano. Now I can play 4, 5 tunes for you. So here playing the piano. I'm a pretty good cook now. Marie's taught me how to cook. She encouraged me to get on the internet, and I said, gee, there's something I'd like to say. She said, let's put it on the website. So I have a website that I help promote now. And I was selected, I think, to go on the front magazine section of the Senior News. I think you have a copy.
Yes, it sounds like you have been very active.
And the local Alma paper wrote an article on me about a month ago. They called it Dean, a Man for All Seasons, and they include my military. They include something about my song publishing. So anyway, about my books. So I'm fortunate to be here and realize that I'm not a hero. The real heroes just didn't come back. And so anyway, what's your next?
I think your life has certainly honored them. We're sort of reaching the point where we're at the end of the military section.
Okay.
I'm going to ask you in a few minutes about life in Sandy Springs, but before we finish that, is there anything that you would like to tell me about life in the military that maybe I haven't asked, or anything you would like to mention? Again, tell me the highest rank you achieved.
Well, when you go in the military, you're a private, buck private, and then after Peleliu, I became I think I became a PFC before that, and then you became a corporal. That's the highest rating. Of course, I was an acting squad leader on Okinawa because we lost so many more men, so many people, that those who are left pick up and become platoon leaders, squad leaders, and kind of leading the newer. These fellows that bring in Peleliu, for example, Okinawa, for example, had never been in combat. Maybe they just got off the ship. They didn't know anything about what was going on. We didn't even know who was who. They would say, we got 10 new men here, put them in your squad or whatever. So I'd try to give them about 30 minutes of what was going on and what they better keep their eyes open and their rifles ready. So I think we pretty well covered most of the things. Now, when I was in my 3rd hospital in San Diego, I enjoyed that little tenure because they would take us. I saw my first horse race. They'd take us out to horse race. I think I saw the first big zoo. They'd take us on expeditions. When I was in Hawaii, they wanted me to go out and attend a dance. I had my arm all in a cast. And in fact, when I first got to Hawaii in the hospital, the Pink Hospital in Hawaii, they put me in an amputation ward. And that, you talk about being scared or petrified. I figured they were going to cut this arm off.
Oh, gosh.
Fortunately, a nurse in about 20 minutes came back and said, we got you in the wrong place. She said, you belong over here. Well, my father had some friends in Hawaii, and they came out to visit with me. That's the first visit. I didn't know them, but they knew my father, and that was good news. And so then they had a dance. Well, I couldn't dance. I regret now that, but Marie and I, we go up to Helen to the Oktoberfest. We go to all the senior dances out at the Benson Center. And but anyway, back to the Marine Corps. Part of the Marine Corps I enjoyed the camaraderie between the young men, lifelong friends. Now, Bill Darling, the young man that took me back, all right, he survived. It took me 2 or 3 years before I could make contact with anybody. Well, there's a man named Joe Dariano in Ohio. I saw his name in a magazine. I said, that's my old friend. So I wrote him a letter. Well, he was so excited, he caught a plane and came to Atlanta. He spent 3 days with me in this house. And so we began to collect up names. And then we began to go to the 1st Marine Division reunion out in San Antonio, Las Vegas, Indianapolis. And my first wife and I, Jean, when she would see these men in wheelchairs, she said, you know, we might be speaking Japanese and German if it wasn't for some of these guys that can't even walk.
Absolutely.
And so that was, she got into it pretty heavy, and so we enjoyed. All right, but right now there are 5 of us left that I know. Bill Darling and I communicate every few days on the internet. He's got an email. We email each other. Bill Jenkins, the fellow that I think saved my life, I put in the book on Peleliu. He came up and got me when they were pulling out. If he hadn't come up to where I was out in front of the trap. If he hadn't come up to where I was and say, look, we're going to pull out of here, the tanks are coming in, I figured that he could have lost his life coming up there. So I put in my book that he helped save my life. But ordinarily, Bill Jenkins and his wife, Dariano, is dead now. Murray, a good friend, he's dead now. But the only ones that are left is that I know is Bill Darling. And bless his heart, he said, we're going on a 2-week cruise. That was 2 years ago. He said, I hadn't seen you in 60 years. Why don't you go with us? I said, Bill, Marie and I are going with you. So we met him at the White Cliffs of Dover. He and his wife from California. And Marie and I said, bless your heart. I said, before we got there, I said, send me a picture, Bill. I wouldn't know you. So he sent me a picture, and he said, you send me a picture. So I sent him one over the internet. And so we had 2 weeks every day, of renewing things. Of course, I tried to play a little bridge every day, too. But our Bill Jenkins, who saved my life, he's out in Colorado. But he's not on the internet. There's a boy named Evans that's in Bakersfield, California. And this boy named Mel Haig, he's up in Minnesota. There's only 5 of us. But Bill Darling and I keep in touch with each other. There's 2 or 3 sons of Marines that we knew that were killed. And the sons were looking for people who knew their fathers in Peleliu and Okinawa. And of course we tell them about that. So I keep in touch daily with a man named Bob Bittner, who's a postmaster up in Pennsylvania, whose daddy was in the tent with Bill Darling, and who was, we knew, but the fact that we knew his father, he appreciates.
That must be a real comfort to him.
Yeah.
Well, I certainly appreciate you talking to me about it.
Well,
and I'm going to ask you some questions about life in Sandy Springs.
Hey,
Totally change gears here. Now, how long have you lived in Sandy Springs?
Okay, now, when we left Alma, I didn't move up here for 2 years because on the court you have to run for re-election every 6 years. Mm-hmm. And so I wanted to wait and run, make sure I was going to stay up here. I didn't want to run if somebody defeat me.
Oh, yeah.
Then being have to move back to Alma. So anyway, we bought this house, and I came on the court in 1965, and we bought this house in 1967. I commuted every week back and forth for 2 years. Go back to Alma on the weekend, come back to the court. So I've been here since 1967. That is about, that's over 40 years, I believe. Mm-hmm. And so now I'm the only survivor just about on this cul-de-sac. telling Marie the other day, I said, my friend Bill Gates is in bad shape up in Marietta. I said, 2 or 3 others have died, so I'm almost a senior citizen of this. Now, we go to Kroger's only 2 blocks here, and I meet every Wednesday with a group of my age group. Some of them are veterans, some are not. There's a man named Woodrow Wilson McClure. He gives coffee and donuts to senior citizens every Wednesday morning. So we meet at 9 o'clock, about 20 or 30 of us. And probably,
I've got to get in that group because I need the stories.
Yeah, I tell you what you ought to do about 9 o'clock this coming Wednesday. Now, I play bridge also on Wednesday. If I get a chance to play bridge, I may not show up over there. But I've been taking Marie with me. She loves those people too. Everybody wants to hug Marie, you know. Wait
here.
And we hug their wives. So there's a group of about 20 or 30. So, all right, but we have a social